Welcome to another episode of See You in the Lobby. Our first since our live show at College Park.
Shout out to the Terps. They showed up.
Shout out to the Terps, which was so much fun. The live show, we actually had a crowd. We
had a crowd.
Which was not something we were sure we were going to have.
Matt and I thought we were going to have like 20 people, and we had like 130 people. So shout out to the Terps. We love you guys. Special shout out. I got to give a shout out to Libby. The mayor of College Park. Libby, we appreciate you for helping us make that happen. And
then also shout out to the Terps for actually rolling Iowa in what was just an incredible game.
It was a lot of fun. Go to we're on the upward swing. I'm here for it.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about college because now we're at that point where pretty much past WNBA free agency. We are really into March Madness at this point. The game that everyone is talking about from yesterday, possibly the game of the year, when we were texting each other back and forth, like, is this the moment? Caitlyn Clark's game-winning shot was fucking outrageous.
Yeah, it was crazy. First shout out because she won me some money, but no, it was a super good game. I mean, the first quarter, I was like, I thought they were going to run away with it, and then some of the Indiana experience came through. It was a good back and forth game and high scoring game. It was a lot of fun to watch. There was a lot of talent on the court. I think my point that I made last week, pat myself on the back, was proven in that Indiana's not there yet. They're not there yet. There's levels to it. They are a great team, but I don't think they're battle tested to the point of being that number one team in the country because there's so many intangibles that come along with that. I mean, think about all the times that South Carolina's had their backs up against the wall like Indiana did last night, but they're still able to win those games. So that's why South Carolina is the number one team in the country.
100%. South Carolina still definitely, they're going to finish as the number one seed. I will say, all things considered, I mean, that Iowa stadium was pretty packed. It was a college game day. It was a really big moment for Indiana. And I definitely still am not turned off by that team at all.
No,
I was like, damn, they were in it for the entirety of it. They couldn't find an answer for Caitlyn Clark, which nobody except Cheyenne Sellers knows how to do that. But
shout out Shy.
Always. But I was still very impressed with Indiana. It still feels like that team they're going to go deep in the tournament. If they can hang toe-to-toe on the road with a team like Iowa like that, they still seem like they're pretty built.
No, I agree. Like, to your point, playing a crowd like that, it was an away game for Indiana. Like they weren't necessarily supposed to win that game, but they took them down to the buzzer. And I mean, they got that stop. It took Caitlyn Clark heroics for Iowa to win that game. So, I mean, those are one of those games, too, like when you're on the opposite side, like there wasn't really anything Indiana could have done any better.
No.
It's just when you have a player like Clark that lives for those moments and she's practicing those shots, I mean, there's only so much you can do.
I told you, I was texting my mom and I was like, you have to watch Caitlyn Clark, you have to watch Caitlyn Clark. And she watched the final minute of that game. And when there was 1.5 seconds left, my mom was like, oh man, Indiana played a great game or whatever. And I was like, wait. I was like, there's enough time on that shot clock.
Yeah, it was good. And to your point, when we were talking off camera, the screen that was set for her to get her open, like that's something we're going to see the shot on replay probably all week. I didn't know if it's probably SportsCenter's top 10. But it took her teammate in getting her open. So like that, those are the things that you're not going to see in the scorebook and don't get the credit. But shout out to them for getting her open.
I'm curious what you think. It feels like when we talk about NCAA tournament players, it feels like Caitlyn is one of those players who are going to be completely like a must-watch tournament player. This team is obviously going to go as far as Caitlyn takes them, but do you see Iowa making a run behind Caitlyn Clark's heroics? Do they feel like that type of team this year?
I don't know how far they can go, but I definitely think Clark is made for everything you just mentioned. She's definitely one of those tournament players. When anytime Iowa's playing in the tournament, I'm going to be watching because, again, she seems like those are the moments she lives for, and she's just such a dynamic scorer. You know, watching her play in person last Tuesday when they played Maryland and seeing her like up close, and I think her speed is underrated.
Shit talking underrated.
No, I don't want to say underrated because she still needs to work on that. But her speed is underrated. And what I was most impressed with watching her play against Maryland is that Shy was shutting her down. We were shutting her down collectively, but she was not forcing shots. And I think that shows her maturity and why she is such a great player, and that a lot of dynamic scorers like her, a lot of superstars on teams, when they aren't hitting, they start forcing. And then it just goes downhill even more. But with her, she was still making the right plays. She was letting the game come to her. So I think that shows a lot of maturity and is another reason why she's such a great player. So it was fun to see her up close and personal, kind of see those little things that sometimes are hard to notice on TV. But I was definitely impressed with her speed.
I was going to say, we talked a lot last week about Aaliyah Boston being like the perfect superstar player, and obviously they're much different. But it feels like Caitlyn Clark is also that kind of perfect college superstar player that I would want to play with, right? Like you were saying, she's not chucking up shots. If you're open, she's going to find you in stride. Like, she seems like the ultimate creator.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she hit 34, 9-9 yesterday. Insane. That ain't easy to do, and especially in a game like that. But you rarely see her take bad shots.
Yeah. I mean, which is crazy when you're watching her like do like tween like to the side and still off balance shots. You're like, oh, that's a pretty good look.
She
from
rarely
like 27,
takes
28 feet
bad
away.
shots, and that's something else. Like, I'm impressed with her game, and I mean, she might chuck up one here or there, but they're heat checks when. Don't we all? when you're hitting 30 footers on regular, it's nothing. But no, it was an exciting game yesterday. I don't know how deep they go, because she is proven to be shut down. Like, I mean, again, shout out to the Terps. We shut her down.
Doesn't happen often, but
so I think depending on matchups, matchups in the tournament are so much. Matchups in the stars just got to be aligned for you. So I don't know how far they can go, but I'm definitely excited to see.
I want to bring up one more point before we get off the Caitlyn Clark train, because we were texting about it yesterday too, and on ESPN's broadcast, they did the cardinal sin of comparing a great women's college basketball player to Steph Curry, an NBA player. Obviously, Steph Curry is amazing, debatably the best shooter in the world, maybe the best shooter ever, but a little off-putting.
A little off-putting for sure. It's just disappointing when media. The league's been around long enough now where there's enough W players, even enough great college women's players, to compare the current players to. And I think where media is missing an opportunity is to what you're talking about. It was a perfect opportunity to say, okay, compare her to Arike.
Yep.
Then go back and show Arike's heroics in the Final Four when she's at Notre Dame. I don't like that was to hit 2 back-to-back game winners in the fucking Final Four.
The most clutch college basketball player of all time is Arike Ogunbowale.
Yeah,
full stop.
Like I
there's
think
no one else is close.
There was a perfect opportunity, because there may be people that are just tuning into that game because of Clark in Iowa. May or may not know who Arike is, or just heard her name. It's a perfect opportunity to tell that story. Like, I think what's missing the mark. The media is missing the mark in that the more you can compare women's basketball players to each other, the more you're going to be able to tell stories and bring visibility to the W, because I'm sure there's a ton of people watching. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's a top 10 matchup, sorry. A lot of eyes are on it. So it's a perfect opportunity to, even a Taurasi. Like, there's just so many names. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can compare her to. It's been around long enough, so I think that's something that the media is missing the mark on, is just finding some W players to. Because, I mean, we've seen a lot of college players. Even W players are still compared to NBA guys. And it's always, if you're a shooter, you're Steph Curry. If you're versatile, you're LeBron. Yep.
There are a lot of other options. ESPN owns the rights to everything under the sun. Yeah. So show someone else.
Or even think Jonquel and Stewie. KD.
There are countless better examples. It's just a little lazy.
On top of it. I understand the why behind it, but I just think it's missing an opportunity because there is, college women's basketball is so much more about the fandom. Like, the W hasn't been around long enough for people to have these lifelong relationships with particular teams. Like, some people, the Celtics, they've been around forever. So there's diehard generational Celtics fans. Sure. The W just hasn't been around long enough for that. So the only point I'm making is with college, it's your school, it's a fandom. Yes. I'm everything Maryland. So there's usually more eyes on college women's basketball because of that.
Yes.
So the more you can push W in there and tell stories and introduce people to players and show highlights, those are things that I think are going to gradually help move the needle forward.
1,000%. ESPN, if you need us to send you some videos, I think we've got some great examples.
Exactly. Because Clark is going to be in the WNBA.
Yes.
So it's a perfect opportunity to get her fan base, to get that Iowa fan base acclimated to some of these players. So maybe they start watching now and build some fandom for certain players and teams before she gets there.
Some might say Caitlyn Clark maybe even the number one pick in 2024.
I think she's the number one pick.
Who said that? Us? We said that.
Yeah, I'm picking her.
I did want to touch also on Marissa's winning parlay bet because this doesn't always happen.
It doesn't always happen. I'm the worst bet.
But please explain to the class.
Shout out Caitlyn Clark for her game winner.
You almost cashed out.
I did almost cash out at $90. Let me pull it up for you guys real quick because it was just...
This is big time. Listen,
I made a little parlay.
You're not going to hear about all the losses, but you'll hear about this.
Sports books, I need you guys to do a little better. I'm the type of bettor that likes to put my bets in earlier in the day so I can do a little research, think through it. I don't want to put my bets in an hour before the matchups. There were so many top 25 women's basketball matchups yesterday, and it took until an hour before the game started for me to find any lines and odds. Then it was only point spread, money line, and total over-under. I couldn't make any prop bets.
Which is crazy.
Guess if there was going to be overtime. And it's fun. Like when I bet on NFL, NBA, it's super fun to pick first basket type for NBA, for example. I know it's rarely. I'll pick the most ridiculous one. It'll be like Porzingis dunk and one.
You're like over 6.5 rebounds, as if anyone cares.
But it's fun. And so anyway, I had North Carolina over Duke, Notre Dame over Louisville, Miami over Virginia, and then Iowa over Indiana.
So literally, that shot at the buzzer.
Won 144. Shout out to Caitlyn Clark for hitting that game winner. You won me $144. So
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. This is a huge win. Thank you. I would like to.
Oh, heavy.
Yeah, it is. I would like to thank FanDuel for helping me get here with all my failed parlays. But no.
However, give us our odds a little earlier.
Please.
FanDuel, or in every other sportsbook on the planet, if we're being real.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to ding us into the next segment? There was another interesting tweet I saw from one of my favorite people on the internet, the one and only Diamond DeShields. But she makes a good point. I'll read it. Trade clauses in the CBA, specifically for those that involve players who have to make cross-country moves, should be incorporated into teams' budgets for the WNBA. Because all this moving with no support is stupid.
So my first reaction to that, that's a players. That's on us. That's on us as players. That's on the current players. That's not a W thing. That's not. So you and I have talked about it off camera before. Like there's certain things like I just feel like you got to keep within the family because the more you publicize things, the more you're inviting public scrutiny and people don't know the ins and outs. So like that's on us as players. That's on the current players. When it's time for CBA negotiations. Like, I remember when I was in Indiana, we were negotiating one, and Ketch is like, y'all gotta sit, like, I'm on listening to these meetings, I'm bringing you guys information. You guys are taking your way to the last minute to place your votes. You're not doing the research. You're not involving yourselves. So that's on us. So, like, I think players need to do a better job of, like, if that's an issue you want to bring to the table, write it down.
Yep.
Go to NECA.
Which I did. Elizabeth Williams did respond, so she saw it as well. So.
Yeah, like go to your executive committee and relay these concerns. But then when it's time to vote and negotiate for the next CBA, make sure you're actively involved because that's not on the W. That's on players to make their voices heard and to not be so lazy. Because I mean, I'll admit it. Like I would wait to the last minute to vote for things on the CBA. But then afterwards, be like, dang, like I should have put more thought into it. So it can be annoying, but this is how the league grows.
Yep.
This is how, I mean, that's a very, very important thing, especially when you're playing overseas and then you're having to worry about moving from team to team. Like that is something valuable. I just think as players, we need to do a better job of using our voices and negotiating the CBA and not being so lazy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. I wonder if now players are more optimistic about change in new CBAs just based on, I mean, how many discussions have we had about more money being poured into the league, more notoriety, more games on national television. Maybe this feels more like a moment where players are going to be more bought in to CBA negotiations because they think they can win some stuff.
Yeah, I think so. And two, it's about being something like a part of something bigger than yourselves, like we're still a young league. We want to see this league thrive for many, many years. Like after we're all, left this planet, like hopefully the league is thriving and, where the NBA is. So it's kind of looking at it as like, okay, I might not see the immediate impact for me, myself as a player, but it might impact generations, coming after me. So it's kind of looking at it at a bigger picture. And like, I have the opportunity to be one of those pioneers that help get the league over certain hurdles.
I hope they get there.
We will.
Final segment. Mm-hmm. It's conference tournament time.
Let's go.
Like we are heading into
my conference 2009 ACC championship.
Not to brag, as we are in the Marissa Coleman shrine to Marissa Coleman. my favorite room in the entire studio. Conference tournament time is so fun. At this point, we know who's good. We know who's borderline. We know who needs to step their shit up. What does conference tournament time mean for you as a person who's been through it before? How are players thinking about this upcoming week?
Conference tournament time is super exciting. It's like that, like pre-season to NCAA tournament, especially if your team that you already know, you have your ticket punched. It's just like one last thing to solidify and check that box to get to NCAA tournament. And it helps with seeding too, obviously. Yep. It's just fun. It's just another part of the college basketball experience that, as high school players you dream of, and especially in these top conferences where you're playing these teams that you may have rivals with all season. You might be able to get revenge on somebody that's got one from you. So it's just a really fun time of the year, and especially in prep for NCAAs.
How meaningful is your performance in these tournaments? I know it's kind of up for debate in the sense that some teams could go on and win their conference title and then suck it up in the actual real tournament. But to you, does it feel like a thing you need to come in and perform well, or else you're going to be a mess for the real tourney?
For sure, I think there's a lot of factors. One, just being a competitor. Like you want to win. Like every year we're going into ACCs, it was us, Duke, Carolina. Who's going to win it? So it's bragging rights. It's who's best in the conference. It's who's put in the work all season to prepare themselves. And then usually it was us three even vying for regular season champions. So it's like, okay, like 2009 we were regular season and conference championship. So like we were undeniably the best in the ACC. You could not take that from us. So there's like bragging rights to it. But most importantly, again, when you're a team that you already have your ticket punched, you want to go into the NCAA tournaments with momentum. You don't want to be upset. You don't want to be knocked out early. You want to be playing your best basketball right around now. So it's very important. You're not fine-tuning things. You want to be at your best going to NCAA. So it is important because you have seen teams that have like early exits in conference tournament, then NCAAs, you kind of see that same thing. So it's very important for momentum.
Which conference tourneys are you looking at?
I think I'm actually most interested right now in the ACC, and after Olivia Miles getting hurt.
Please be okay.
I know.
Please.
Fingers crossed. But for me, they were the clear ACC champion. But now, if she's not able to play, I think it's going to be a little spicy.
Duke and UNC have a shot. Now Virginia Tech as well.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see that. Hopefully she's okay. I don't know how to call it. I think the ACC could really championship could go any those top 4 seeds. I think it could go anyway.
I know we're a little biased, but also the Big Ten tournament.
I was gonna say I wanted to save that one. Big Ten is gonna be super exciting
with a potential rematch for Maryland and Iowa.
If Maryland, I'm praying for the rematch between Maryland and Iowa because it was getting spicy at the end between
I want it bad.
Shy and Caitlyn. So I'm hoping for that.
Hopefully enough fans will be in attendance for Iowa.
Oh yeah, hopefully
it'll be fine.
Big eye roll.
But another one where you could see a couple of matchups that happen in that conference tournament that are Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4 type matchups, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, and I'm not even being biased when I say this, and I think Maryland has a good shot to get back to being Big Ten champions. I mean, for the first however many years we were in the conference, we won the championship, and we've fallen short the past couple years, but I think Maryland is peaking at the right time.
Perfect time.
Shy is playing with a lot of confidence on both ends of the floor. I mean, Diamond's going to do what Diamond does, but what you've seen from the role players on Maryland, what they've come through.
Suddenly shooters.
Yeah.
I love it.
And done. And it seems like it's a team that's playing for each other. It's a team that has everybody's accepted their roles and that are okay with that, and they just genuinely want to win. And those are dangerous teams come tournament time because it's not like we have bums on the team. Like we are a talented team, and obviously led by potential, top 3 pick and Diamond. So not only are they a good team, but they're a team that's peaking at the right time and playing very well together. So I think they have a chance.
And with an outside chance at a number 1 seed if they pull this all off. Number 1 seed in the actual tournament.
And if that happens, give Coach B Coach of the Year because considering what she lost and what she's been able to do and having played for her, Coach B is one of the best player coaches and motivators like ever. She knows what buttons to push. She knows how to make you feel like the world is against you to get you to play at your best.
I love that.
So
before we close, we're recording this before the latest drop of the AP top 25. I'm curious what your top 5, we can go a little outside the top 5 if we need to stretch it out. But who would your top 5 heading into conference tournaments be in order?
In order. South Carolina.
Same.
Stanford.
Also same.
Indiana.
Also same.
LSU.
Also same, but yeah.
Go Terps. Number 5.
You think Terps slide into the top 5?
I have Maryland top 5. I think what they've done the last few weeks, they've earned that spot. They've beaten great competition. I think beating Iowa was huge for them. I put them in the number 5 spot. And if you want to go 6 and 7, I have Iowa and UConn. Iowa 6, UConn 7.
I think those are the clear top 7 teams in some type of order, and Notre Dame is there as long as Olivia Miles can play.
Yeah.
Which is
and I don't even want to give LSU that spot, but because of their record, you have to.
An easy schedule.
Yeah, like they haven't been battle tested. Like I need to see them play against some real comp. But you can't knock their record.
Season.
One loss.
Yeah.
So I have them there. But tournament, and I'm very interested to see how LSU does in the tournament. But to your point, I think those are the clear 7 teams that have a legit shot. I mean, I'm glad Duke and UNC are back in the mix for top college women's programs. It's important for the game. Like when I was playing, like it was Duke, Carolina, like those were, they were always top 10, top 15, even top 5. So it's good to see them back in the mix. But if you look at that game yesterday versus like an Iowa, Indiana game or
tears.
Maryland, Iowa game
there
or
are tears.
South Carolina, it was 45-41.
Yeah, it's a different game.
It's a different game. So I think those 7 teams that we just discussed, I think those are the 7 that have the best chance. And within those 7, I think we could even pull maybe 4 or 5-ish that have a legit chance.
Yep.
I'm not sure about.
It depends on AZ also.
Yeah.
But
not sure about Iowa. I mean, when you have Caitlyn Clark, anything's possible. Word to KG. And, when you have Caitlyn Clark, I think you can go far. Indiana, I'm still.
This is the crazy thing to me is coming into conference tournament time. I feel like I can only 100% confidently say South Carolina will be a 1 seed no matter what. It feels like Stanford probably also. Obviously, it feels like Indiana probably also. But depending on how conference tournaments shake up, a lot of those teams they could get knocked out get put onto that 2 seed slot. It really feels like South Carolina is the only team going into conference tournament time really comfortable.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and honestly, they're 1 and 2 seeds. It's really not that big of a difference or big of an advantage, like in my opinion, and especially with those teams because they're all so closely intertwined with ability. So I don't know. I think Stanford. I don't want to say feel bad for them, but because they are a West Coast Pac-12 team, like is it still Pac-12? They've changed all the time.
We're good for now.
But because their games are on later, you don't hear a lot as much about Stanford as you do some of these other teams because of that. But Stanford is a great team, and Karen Brink's having a great season. They obviously have Haley Jones, so I think it takes until tournament time for people to be like, oh, like Stanford's nice. Like I remember when Maryland played Stanford in the tournament last year, 2 years ago.
I don't remember.
Well, whenever I played Maryland
I think it was
Stanford,
last year.
It's just like we had a great team, but it's because you don't see Stanford as much, you don't realize that Stanford is very, very good basketball team.
Stanford is very legit.
So yeah, I'm excited for tournament play.
Well, 1 week from now, we're going to be talking about all the upsets. We're going to be starting to preview the actual tournament, and I'm very excited for it.
I'm excited. Matt and I are going to fill out brackets against each other.
Ooh, we are going to do brackets. We're going to do brackets.
When Matt loses, he has to take...
No, we can't go back to
that. Undisclosed amount shots.
It's Monday morning. It's Monday morning. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of good stuff. So stay with us here at Gaming Society. This is the part of the show where I tell you all the things to follow. I need to do a new voice for this one. Last week was ASMR.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to like snap me into like a beat.
I have no rhythm.
Neither do I. Okay. All right. So you want to follow us on Gaming Society on Twitter, and Gaming Society on Instagram, and Gaming Society on YouTube, and Gaming Society on TikTok, and see you in the lobby on TikTok. Back in the